the most important person on the offense other than Dak is Schultz. And then he had some numbers in there for you. Right. Should those of us that are against the idea of Schultz coming back pay more attention to what Dan Orlovsky is saying?
No, I don't think so. I think that you guys have got this absolutely right about what Dalton Schultz is. Dalton Schultz is a player that has figured out that he could run waggles and boots, and he could slam block and then release late, and they lose him in coverage and things like that. He's a reliable receiver, but when teams were playing certain coverages, whether it was the two deep coverage or the single high stuff, Schultz is smart enough to know that to keep moving, keep going. If you look at a lot of his routes, it starts at one side of the field and comes all the way across the other side of the field. There's a lot of movement involved in stuff like that. It's a lot of deception. Hey, I'm going to send you one direction. I'm coming back the other way. And now you've got people scrambling to have to try and cover him. And I think that Dalton Schultz, to his credit, does a good job of catching the football. There's some traffic catches and stuff that he has to make. Is he going to make you miss? Is he going to be one of those guys that's going to be huge run after the catch? No. I mean, we've seen some times where he's had some success of breaking one tackle and maybe getting a few extra yards. But, he's not a very good blocker. If you look at some of the running plays and some of the problems that they had last year, when the ball was snapped and he was on the backside, they didn't even have him on the front side. And when I say front side, that means where the ball's going. Backside, of course, is him having to make a cutoff block and keep his man. He couldn't do that. He can't handle power. He can't handle guys up on his nose. So, no, I don't sit there and that's why I can't fight you on this. I think tight ends in this day and age, there's a lot of ways to make them look really, really good. The way you scheme them could be really important. And he took advantage of some guys. Dak Prescott knew that, hey, that guy will be open because the scheme allowed him to be open.
Well, I think Orlovsky has said some things over the years that make you wonder, does he really believe this stuff, or is he doing sensational type of entertainment to get reaction? And I don't know if that's what it is. Obviously the guy was in the NFL. He knows what playmakers look like. He does know from a quarterback's perspective the value of having somebody that you can trust. But I think the reason Dak trusted him is the defense was doing such a good job taking away his other receivers. There's just no way you can draw it up that throwing the ball to Dalton Schultz all those times. Keep it in mind, while he was having success throwing to Schultz, they were in the middle of an offensive crisis. And no matter how much they threw it to Schultz, it didn't take them out of it. It didn't fix their woes. As he was producing a lot, I think that matters. 682, he absolutely does say Schultz weird. Way too much emphasis on every syllable.
Dalton Schultz.
Maybe that guy sounded like a robot, says the 214. 469, Dalton Schultz. Does anybody confuse him with Travis Kelce? What the bleep is going on? 682, get this trash off my radio. Okay, so it's very similar to kind of reaction to what I think I expected.
I think there's in this day and age, these coordinators have done a nice job of scheming these tight ends open. And there's some of them that are super, super talented. They don't have to block. They don't have to be complete tight ends. The ones that are able, the George Kittles and the guys that will play in line, and when I say in line, next to the offensive tackle, and not play as a wing or play off or detached and then have to move to try and block. These coordinators have done a good job of making sure that these guys that are really big wide receivers can get the ball down the field, and a lot of times they're schemed in a way that they have free access, that they don't get covered.
I said it earlier, I think this is another example where in football, when you're doing your analysis, you get in major trouble if you don't consider the stat that you're looking at, and is it what the other team is letting you do? If you face defenses that aren't worried at all about your run and you get 4.5 yards per carry, does that mean you're a running back that deserves $12 or $15 million? No. It means the other team was terrified of your quarterback and your wide receivers and let you run thinking, well, maybe they'll have to punt eventually. We'll get him in 3rd and long eventually. But without that context, it just doesn't tell enough of the story.
No, it doesn't.
I think this is another example with that pairing of Dak and Schultz having the best total QBR of any combination.
Real simple throws. I mean, you don't see, there's not a lot of difficult throws when you throw the ball to Dalton Schultz. And I think that, but I'm not blasting Dalton Schultz here. I'm not blasting Dak Prescott, but that's the whole idea. if you can create the easiest of the throws.
Yeah.
Don't make me have to fit tight window balls. Don't make me have to throw it into the sideline and on a comeback and hope for that one of these corners don't come driving downhill on it. Dalton Schultz is a very friendly player for a quarterback,
and there's value to that.
There's a lot of tight ends in this league that are very friendly to their quarterback because they know how to get open in space. They know how to sit down between linebackers and corners and safeties, and it's a very easy throw. And that's why you have success doing that. That's why, to me, the throws when you watch like Chase and Burrow and those guys, and the ball's going down the field and then they're dropping in buckets, over corners who are draped all over a wide receiver. Those are the kinds of throws you're like, man, okay, that's a little bit difficult to throw. That's a tough one get quarterbacks make those throws. Man, you get those guys.
Okay, a couple other things. 903 says, don't bash Schultz for doing what he was asked very, very well.
No,
we're not trying to bash Schultz.
Not at all.
I think the Cowboys make horrible decisions on players. This, I would put it in the top 5 of the last decade, okay? And what I have in mind is Jalen Smith, Zeke, this one. I don't know what the other 2 are. But, okay, so it's in consideration for top 3. That's how bad because what we're asking the Cowboys to do is make smart, efficient decisions with how they allocate the cap. I think Schultz is a fine NFL player, but in a year where you're absolutely cash strapped and you're thinking about getting rid of all pro players, to bring back Schultz just because he's quarterback friendly, I think would be a major mistake. And to me, another sign that this team still can't make good personnel decisions or scout their own guys.
Yeah, if you said to me that, okay, we're going to get rid of Amari Cooper to make sure that Dalton Schultz is back on your team, I would say that's pretty bad team building.
It's
right
Dalton
there.
Schultz.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz. Now, I am not sure why they are better in 12 than 11, and I think that's something to look at.
Used to be the threat of the run.
Yeah.
Probably the threat of the run right there is what it really is. And, and that's, to me, that's, when you were like a lot of the statistics, a lot of this offensive statistics were all from the first 8-9 weeks of the season. And then you got in some games where you just mauled some teams because like Philadelphia was playing their JV team, and that's not the Cowboys' fault. You play who you play, and you put numbers up against who you play. But if you look at the production against teams that were top-rated defenses, that was an issue right there.
Yeah, that's what I need is performances against good defenses. But, getting to the 12 personnel and maybe finding some tight ends that could be multidimensional and maybe give you run after catch and better blocking than Schultz. Maybe that's something that you really look into as long as, Dak's the quarterback. You're going to want options underneath because what I think we can say for sure about Dak is he's still really going to make decisions to avoid the turnover. He needs players that are more open, I think, than other quarterbacks that you want to project eliteness on. So having 2 tight ends, that might be the most important thing that I heard from Dan Orlovsky. Like, how could we get some of that with players that are maybe a little bit more dynamic and can help you block a little bit better?